That's it. That's it.
Michael!
I'm never on this fucking pay-per-view again, ever! Don't follow me.
Michael!
He left! Batista left for 3 fucking years and then comes back and wins the Royal Rumble! Go! Get out! Every time you laugh at me, is everything you want to break? I better not have anything with Batista on it. Better not have anything. You in this? Maybe not, because he's not good enough to have his own DVD, is he? Or I wasn't stupid enough to buy it. Fuck you too. Fuck both of you.
What was that?
The Rock. Oh, Royal Rumble. Who cares about your pay-per-view? I don't care because all you do is fuck everything up. Bye. Bridget.
I think this is fake.
You can't say that. I can say that.
Wrestling's not fake!
It's still real to me, damn it.
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary.
Are we recording?
Yeah. All right, we're good.
I like how the show is devolving from like an actual wrestling show to like typical conversations with Jason and I would be us prepping for the show, like actual wrestling content to
What do we talk about?
We're discussing health insurance and disposable income that neither of us have, both planning weddings.
Yeah, it sucks. And then, try to maximize your money intake and when not to have the network. And
Well, see, that's the problem. And you were like, I feel like we've probably discussed this plenty of times before, but that's the problem with the network is it's nice to have, and $9.99 a month isn't too bad. But in the big scheme of things, like I was, talking about my $9.99 gym membership that I never use, it adds up.
Yeah.
Especially with bills and stuff like that. And there's still like not enough content on there to like.
That's the thing. If it was like everything, every Raw, every Sunday Night Heat episode, everything that you could think of, I'd be like, oh, I'm more inclined to sit here and watch.
Well, because it's funny how fast you'll piss through an entire year of like pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, like back in the day, like there was more, I don't know, like you got more invested when you had Raw followed by Sunday Night Heat or Raw, SmackDown, Sunday Night Heat going into the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
There was more to keep you invested in it. And I think it's funny. I mentioned this to you before when I bought the Attitude Era Volume 2 DVD. There was more stuff on that DVD than I had on the network. In terms of just like matches I had never seen before or matches that like, for example, the casket match with Rock and Undertaker was on there. And that's a match we've been talking about forever and a match I've wanted to get my hands on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose we're supposed to make predictions for.
Yeah, we can run down the card and see what's going on. Let me even pull up the full card of.
added because I was kind of in and out of the Raw reunion. But when did they add the Outlaws and the Ascension?
Right after, I don't know if you saw that segment that they did with the Outlaws, APA, and Holland, well, the NWO.
I didn't catch that segment, but I will say that Animal had tweeted that he was really hoping that they weren't going to screw up the Ascension angle.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like when I read that, I kind of had this like dream match in my head, if you will, where because the creative or whoever built this whole thing up, where like they're almost like a glorified Demolition or LOD ripoff.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that, I mean, I don't know, because I'm sure I'll get called out by the smart marks on this, like if both members of Demolition are even still living.
I think so. I think there's 3 members of Demolition, so.
Because my thought process would be, what if you did like a handicap match where you had Demolition and Animal, and Animal still wrestles.
Yeah.
And he's been with the company off and on in a wrestling capacity in character as Animal. I mean, Heidenreich was his partner. Before that, it was Draws.
Yep.
So I thought it might be kind of a cool idea if you had, say, like a dream WrestleMania match where it would be the Ascension against Animal and Demolition. I mean, I think it's cool to see the Outlaws, you know, wrestling again, but I mean, I thought they kind of hit their peak with the Mania match with Kane last year.
Yeah. I thought they blew an opportunity because the Outlaws would have obviously been over, like, throughout their career, and they've never, I don't know, I would have liked to seen them come back and do a face run with the titles as opposed to a heel run, but.
I don't know, there's just something about Billy Gunn in that run that just, I remember telling you, just kind of irked me.
Yeah, it's just slower and.
Well, I mean, I can't blame a guy for getting older, but Road Dogg appears, at least in my mind, he appeared to be in better shape of the two.
Yeah.
Which was kind of funny because it was always kind of the opposite. Billy Gunn was the athlete and Road Dogg was the voice piece. And now it just, because Billy Gunn wasn't much of a speaker, and that's what made him, that's kind of what saved that team, was that Road Dogg was great on the mic and Billy Gunn was great in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And now it kind of seems like the older they get, Road Dogg's kind of carrying both now.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, it's a strange tag team to have in the PG era. I'm not bitching. It is cool to see them. I did enjoy a lot of their matches. I thought the WrestleMania match, as short as it was against the Shield last year, was really entertaining.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was exactly what the Shield needed at that time. They came out and destroyed the team in like 2 minutes.
But for the Rumble tomorrow night, I mean, again, it'll be a cool match to see. I just don't think that they should have been the two to go against the Ascension.
I guess it's the only two that, you know, if you want to pick legendary teams, like, there aren't that many left that can really go at that rate.
I mean, I suppose so. I guess, I don't know. Just from a creative standpoint, and again, Sean did post that WWE Network is looking for creative writers. Unfortunately, I've never written for Hollywood or television, so it wouldn't hurt, I guess, to throw a resume at them, but it's just going to go the spam box anyway. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would have been one of my ideas, which is, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a phenomenal match, but, you know, because here's the thing is, when the Ascension, obviously it's a gimmick that when they got from NXT to WWE that Vince must have loved, is basically putting them over by crapping on teams like Demolition and LOD. So, I mean, but you have commentary burying them. I mean, JBL saying, oh, they couldn't even carry LOD's bags. Like, you know that it's a work. Like, he's saying that for an obvious reason. It would just be interesting if they were able to get Animal or the members of Demolition in there. Yeah. And if the Ascension, obviously being the younger guys, would probably squash the hell out of them.
Yeah, maybe that's the plan. Maybe they're gonna have like a Randy Orton Legend Killer kind of gimmick where they go around and just beat up old legendary tag teams.
I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool because we've never seen that in like a tag team scenario, really.
Yeah.
Because we always get like the hybrid now of like Rated RKO and, you know.
Yeah, it's just two guys stuck together.
Yeah, Air Boom and, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of those teams are cool, but like just not organic tag teams that come up like these guys have.
Yeah. Now, I don't know.
Jobs they're getting.
What's that?
With the Ascension, who are these jobbers? They're like these little tiny Asian men, and they just
they're trying to do the Heidenreich. I mean, the what's his name, Ryback thing, where Ryback for like the first 4 months was just getting nobodies, and you know what I mean,
right?
So I think that's what they're trying to do with them. But I don't know. I'm kind of sick of jobbers getting guys over. I don't know. I didn't grow up in that era of wrestling, so when I see jobber guys, it's just like tune out.
Right. Well, because those are like the matches you would see on like Sunday Night Heat. Like we did have those matches growing up. We just didn't really pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you would have like, before the Hardy Boys hit it big when they were running around in plaid.
Yeah. But they were company guy jobbers, you know what I mean? I don't know. There's almost like a difference to it.
Well, yeah, because the regional jobbers never really made it to television.
Yeah.
Like my neighbor was a regional jobber. I think I've probably told the story a million times, but he wrestled Taz on a Monday Night Raw like dark match, which subsequently ended his career actually because Taz broke his leg in like 3 places, and then after that he became like a pill addict.
Ugh.
But yeah, something like that, like a local regional guy would come in on a Monday Night Raw or something before the cameras were even rolling, just to entertain like the hometown crowd or something.
Yeah.
So now we have the kickoff tomorrow. Well, for that one, who do you see going over?
I'd have to say the Ascension because it does the Outlaws no good. They're not going to be around here. I would hope that they're smart enough to give it to the Ascension.
Well, like you, I don't think the Outlaws really, there's nothing for them to gain out of this. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe they have something leading up. Maybe those guys, are going to kind of be like on a Goldust or Chris Jericho schedule. I mean, Goldust is more full-time than Jericho, but I mean, I've even heard rumbles that they're going to split those guys up because Goldust is looking to get out again.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to spoil things, but I don't know if you've heard that there's rumors of a tag team signing.
I think I might have read about that.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it or not talk about it?
We can talk about it. I mean, since we're talking tag teams as well.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to spoil for people. Tune out for a minute or so, but there's rumors that the Dudleys are signing.
Okay, no, that's not the one I heard. I heard a completely different one.
Okay, well, I don't spoil anything for me because I unfortunately figured this one out. I was like, oh no, I don't want to know that. But I can see the Dudley boys working an angle with these guys.
Now, is that like absolutely like the source? Well, I mean, how good are the sources for dirt sheets? But like, is there a source that could offer some credibility to that? Because we've heard that rumor before.
I seem to see it pick up a couple days on WrestleZone, so. But.
Well, then I suppose we can stay tuned to that, because if that is true, I can't see the company wasting the Dudley boys before.
Yeah. I don't know. There's rumors that it'd be in the Rumble, but I don't know if that makes sense to have like Devon come out and then Bubba come out. I'm like, the full pop is for both of them to come out.
I mean, another scenario I could throw at you too is the Ascension gets over the Outlaws and beats them badly. Like it would have to be one of those scenarios where, they come back, because they got obviously embarrassed at the Raw reunion, so they would have to do the same to the Outlaws. And while they're like just beating the shit out of the Outlaws, that's when the fireworks hit the stage.
Yeah.
And the pyro goes off, and then the Dudleys come out and put them through tables or something.
Yeah. But I'm like, if the whole angle of these two guys is they're like the big, tough, LOD kind of guys, like the Dudley boys kind of are the closest you're going to get to like a modern tag team that can still go at that level.
Well, that's also one of the tag team, the ECW legendary tag teams but I mean, that doesn't really, I don't know. There's not a lot to say for that too, because we're not in the ECW era anymore. So, I mean, they could get a gimmick match out of Mania with the Dudleys if they brought them in. Obviously, they could do like a table match or something.
Yeah, you could put, I don't know, the Usos. You do another 4-way like how they had last year, because I think those work best to get all these tag teams in there. So you could do the Usos, you could do the Ascension, the Dudley boys, whether it's Stardust and Goldust, whoever. That would be awesome. You could have the Dudley boys go over, and the next night they drop the belts to the Ascension or something. I don't know.
Unless the Dudley boys plan on working like a full-time schedule, I think all we're really going to get out of them in terms of mileage is probably a Royal Rumble or WrestleMania pop. Yeah. And then after that, I mean, it depends, because I had said to you when we went to the TNA event that Bubba Ray looked phenomenal. He was in great shape. He was in better shape than I remember seeing him in ECW when we were kids.
Yeah. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe even they're thinking, hey, let's put these guys in the Hall of Fame this year.
I mean, well, with the exception of Macho Man, we had our predictions, and one of the popular ones going around right now is that obviously Kevin Nash is going to go in as Diesel, and I've even heard that X-Pac might go in.
Good.
I mean,
I hope that does happen.
I'm thinking if X-Pac goes, I don't know, because I could say he could go in as 1, 2, 3 Kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because you know how we've talked about this, they've thought about, well, obviously Scott Hall went in as Razor Ramon, and then Kevin Nash will go in as Diesel so that they could do the NWO induction with Hogan and, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. And I'm kind of wondering if they might do the same for DX members, like if X-Pac did go in as 1, 2, 3 Kid,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that would work out, because at this point, Triple H has long since preceded his Hunter Hearst Helmsley persona. So.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of potential. Even the Outlaws being in another Royal Rumble is kind of interesting, because whenever we get into this time of the year, this season, it's always interesting when guys come back and they're at a major pay-per-view, because you kind of wonder, like, all right, why are they back on our radar again?
Yeah. True.
So is it possible we could see them in the Hall of Fame? Who knows?
I don't know. What sucks is like everybody that you're like after Macho Man that you're like, oh, he has to go in. It's like a lot of these guys are all passed away. I'm like, you can't have a full fucking show with people that passed away. It's kind of depressing.
Well, no, I remember we did talk about that in the last show, because, obviously there are a lot of guys who I would definitely want to see in there, like, Mr. Perfect, and Bam Bam Bigelow would be another one.
Mm-hmm.
King Kong Bundy's not in there, is he?
I don't think so.
I know he's still alive, but I'm just trying to think, because obviously, like Owen Hart, Big Boss Man, a lot of these guys are, dead, but then you still have,
Mm-hmm.
there's room for obviously the Click members, and that still leaves X-Pac and Kevin Nash. I mean, more WCW guys even.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a completely out there random question. I mean, obviously, I think DDP should probably go in.
Okay.
But like somebody like Billy Kidman, even.
I don't know. That's at some point, but I'm just like, he's so far down the list where I'm like, I don't know. Like,
well, that's what I mean. Like, I would never expect to see Disco Inferno in the Hall of Fame anytime soon.
okay, I'm with you.
But, is it too far off to say like Billy Kidman could go in, or Dean Malenko, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know Perry Saturn, but I don't think Perry, I don't know. He was a great wrestler, don't get me wrong, but is he Hall of Fame worthy? I don't know if that's until you start getting to like the bottom of the barrel.
I wonder if Rey Mysterio will go in this year.
Well, that was another one I was going to mention, but is it too soon for Mysterio? Because his career is still kind of in limbo.
Yeah, I don't know. If they were like, hey, we want to offer you a Hall of Fame thing, and after this, we'll give you your release. Because that's what he's been looking for the last couple months. It's like, all right, you're in the California area. That's like his area. Like, I don't know. It just makes sense to me to like, okay, give him that Hall of Fame. You get a huge pop there. Everybody ends on a happy note, and here's your contract. Here's your release, Rey Mysterio, like you wanted.
Now, I think this matchup's kind of interesting, and it's the kickoff match, but the New Day against Cesaro, Kid, and Adam Rose. That seems like a weird trio right there to me.
I actually thought that the Outlaws match was the pre-show, but I just saw it earlier that it's been switched, or I don't know, unless I just read that wrong, but I am...
Because originally I was under the impression that the Ascension were in the kickoff match, but they must have reversed it, thinking that, the Outlaws deserve to be on the card.
Which, it's interesting. I don't know. But, yeah, no, I like Kid and Cesaro as a tag team. I don't really understand the pairing with Adam Rose, but it just might be one of those things where it's like, yeah, there's nobody really else out there.
Well, I think, too, that they realized how much of a calculated error they made with Adam Rose.
Yeah.
So if they align them with a team or with participants that have, a little bit of buzz around them, I mean, Cesaro certainly has still a ton of buzz from last year, but I think that it's almost like they're trying to rejuvenate Adam Rose's career, or at least, I don't know. I feel like sometimes with guys like that, you would think that when people don't get the desired effect, that Vince or Triple H want, that they would kind of just be like, all right, we'll call a spade and we'll just, future endeavor them or bump them down the card or something.
Yeah.
I'm always really surprised when it's such a colossal failure, like Brodus Clay was. And I don't get me wrong, like I thought Brodus Clay was amusing for the first couple of matches, but I felt like in like the new era, him, Adam Rose, like we've had some like colossal failures.
Yeah.
And Adam Rose is definitely the most obvious one.
Fandango,
that was another one. Yeah, that was another. Again, that was a wrestler where the theme song got more pop than the actual wrestler.
And now they've since changed it, and it's like, well, you took away the only thing the guy had.
Well, that's the thing is like that gimmick is such a crappy gimmick that what saved him essentially was that night after WrestleMania with the song.
Yeah.
Like they had something they could squeeze maybe 3 months out of, but the fact that they're trying this hard to keep him on the roster with that character is just like pulling straws. I mean, what do you see? I personally, I see this going to Rose and Kid and Cesaro.
Yeah, I hope so. I kind of want to see the New Day kind of take a heel turn because I see them floundering right now.
Well, again, it's another team where. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's different for Kingston because he was like the perpetual Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
I mean, by default, that guy always held that title. So, I mean, Big E was another. I still think Big E has potential, but the longer they keep him without really doing anything substantial with him, the more and more he's going to get, reduced to like a Brodus Clay or something.
Yeah. It's just
he's Ahmed Johnson of our time.
It's just the fact that there are mockingly positive on the show that I'm just like I can't get behind this. Like who is this ideally supposed to be for? I don't know. Maybe I just missed the point of who this team is supposed to who is supposed to back this team in terms of a fan.
Well, because it's not like as in your face as Nation of Domination was.
Yeah.
Because that was like a very 90s blatant, like they were supposed to be like the Black Panther separatist movement or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's supposed to be like a very racially charged, like kind of in your face sort of team.
Mm-hmm.
This I don't really understand. This I'm like, if it's supposed to be like a watered down version of that, or like a more PG friendly version, but yeah, this I don't really completely understand. I feel like I have kind of missed the point of this one.
Yeah. What I'm hoping for, I really just want to see Cesaro and Kid get over. I think they have a great opportunity ahead of them to get over. They could be tag team champions sometime this year.
Right.
I don't know. I'd like to see them become more solidified as a tag team.
Well, yeah, because I've been a firm believer that Tyson Kidd has so much potential. And, Cesaro, the same thing. He has so much potential. And I'm just, I don't want to see them squander it like they've been doing. So.
And the other thing, the other key to the ingredient, I think, is if you're not going to make Natalya your women's champion, I think you need to flip her heel. I think she'd be a lot stronger as a heel, like manager, valet.
No, I agree with that. Because at this point, if she doesn't have the Diva title, and this is, of course, going to the Paige and Natalya against the Bella Twins, I don't really see any other purpose for keeping her around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in that regard, that's almost like you just have her for the sake of having her in a Divas title match. Because if we complain that the main roster is thin, the Divas roster is even thinner.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why it's always going to wind up being Paige or Natalya or AJ or the Bella Twins.
Mm-hmm.
So, tag team match, Usos against Ms. Dow. I call them both Ms. Dow.
Collectively, or Ms. Dow. I guess it's the Usos. Why not? Like, they are your current, like, I don't know, leaders of the tag team locker room.
Which, again, I don't hate the Usos, but much like Catherine, I don't, whatever it is that people like about them, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah. I have seen, like, some really good matches out of them, so I'm not going to say they can't perform, but it's not, like, two characters I really connect to.
Right.
So I'm not, like, running out to get an Usos t-shirt.
Well, and I swear to God, this has got to be the most confusing main event because, all right, so it's Brock and Cena part, what are we on, 5, 6?
Yeah.
If
It was
this,
supposed to be technically the third match in the series, but it's like the fifth time they've met.
I was going to say, if this was a horror movie and John Cena was Jason Voorhees, this would be Friday the 13th, part 6, Cena Lives. I guess what I don't get even more than those two is why a Money in the Bank holder is in this. It just seems a little strange to me.
Yeah, but I also like that it adds another dimension to the match where you're like, oh, well, how could he use that? What I'm kind of envisioning is that they do the whole like angle where what's his face, Chris Jericho was like, oh, I beat two guys in one night. Like you're making Brock look as powerful as possible going into Mania. You know, he ended the streak. He destroyed John Cena at SummerSlam. He had that follow up match where he got away. Why not? In one night, he beat John Cena and he took out the Money in the Bank. Like just accolades you're trying to add to the character of Brock Lesnar.
Right.
So beats John Cena in one night and beats the Money in the Bank winner. I wish they, the few Money in the Banks hadn't been lost. So it was like another accolade. Like Brock was like the only guy to ever beat a Money in the Bank contract or something.
So in other words, what you're saying is like if Brock gets over Cena, like he gets a pinfall on Cena and he wins the match.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins cashes in and then basically Brock just destroys him and he loses the suitcase and Brock retains.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. It's not my favorite ending, but I can see it.
You're making Brock look as strong as you can going into Mania. That's the whole purpose of this. I'm not of the belief that he's losing it to anybody right now.
I don't because I think right now it's looking more and more like it's gonna be. They'd be stupid if Daniel Bryan wasn't in another WrestleMania main event. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. But are we getting to the Rumble now, or because did you talk about your winner?
For the Rumble, I'm on the fence because there's really not like a dream Rumble winner, and I think that's the worst part.
Yeah.
About all of this is there's not a guy in that match, and I'm like, man, I really hope this guy pulls one out.
I don't know. I kind of think it is like for people like me, you, and anybody. It's like, oh, Daniel Bryan. That's the story. It's like it's the Rocky story almost, where it's like this guy he was beaten down. He lost the title. He never had a chance to get back, and he took a whole year to fight back just to get to this point. I don't know.
Right.
That to me is who the guy should be, but is it necessarily the guy that it's gonna be? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I've learned enough over the past 15 years. It's like, don't have too much faith in getting exactly what you want. Last year was like an anomaly that different situations played in to make it happen. If Punk didn't leave, I don't believe we would have gotten the main event that we did.
Right.
So, but over the years, I've learned not to believe anything except WWE does what they want to do, and they will do. John Cena as face is the point. It's like, how long has that guy needed to, from a creative standpoint, needed to go heel, and they've been reluctant to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they want to do. And to me, Roman Reigns is the guy they want to put over. So, like it or not.
Right.
I'm hoping for one and expecting another. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the way I look at it is the only realistic two winners tomorrow night are going to be, it's either going to be Bryan or it's going to be, I mean, I would love to see Ambrose, but not a chance in hell, not a snowball chance in hell. So it's going to be Reigns or it's going to be Bryan.
No Ziggler in there?
I want to say yes, but I'm just, I don't know. Maybe like.
Who would you give the edge over, Ambrose or Ziggler?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because the thing is, I really like both of those guys, but even I can admit, truthfully, I don't think either of them are ready for the main event at WrestleMania yet.
I don't know. I almost give the edge to Ziggler because he's been on such a crazy roll. If we're picking the final four and from top down, I think it goes Reigns. I'll give him fucking 50%.
Right.
How can I do it? I'll give Bryan I don't know, 25. No, that's not 30%. Ziggler 15, and then Ambrose 5. I think that.
Right.
And I think my math's right on that.
I mean, it's because like as we're talking, I'm like still like kind of stuck in my head, just kind of thinking like, how does this work? How does anything about tomorrow night's show work?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still like, I'm just kind of, because you have Bryan, you have Ziggler, you have Ambrose, you have Reigns. Those would be like my 4, potentials.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of questions too, because then you have the Sting angle with Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
If that is to get fleshed out more, how do you incorporate something like that into tomorrow night's show?
If it even does. I don't necessarily see it even playing a factor into the show.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if they were going to do something with... I think the reason we got it on Monday is because there was no way to kind of squish it into the pay-per-view.
True.
So.
Yeah. The other one I'm thinking about is if you're going to start the road to WrestleMania, which means the road to Undertaker potentially being on or off the card, where do you begin? Like, if he's going in the Hall of Fame, when do you make the decision to pull the trigger on Taker, whether it's for a match or whether it's for getting asses in seats at the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. I would say the next pay-per-view, but I don't know if that's going to be one of the higher rated pay-per-view. I guess that is where you kind of drop the bombshell of Undertaker. I don't know if he's even necessarily going in this year. I think if he is going in, it's probably next year.
See, I don't know. I'm still holding out for him going this year because I'm trying to think. If you're trying to stack the deck, which they did I will give them all the credit in the world. They stacked the deck last year.
Yeah.
A Hall of Fame tournament. They stacked it so fucking high that I felt that people got screwed in terms of speeches.
Yeah.
And of course, I blame a lot of that on Mr. T.
Yeah. My mama.
Last year was near perfection for a Hall of Fame ceremony, just in terms of being completely satisfied with the class that went in there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So how do you, my question is, how do you follow up with Macho Man?
I don't know. I think you need a live headliner, somebody that can talk, somebody, the pre-main event, main event. I don't know who the hell that guy would be, though.
That's what I'm saying. If you have Randy Savage, who is no longer with us, the smartest move, I think, for WWE to make in order to make that whole ceremony work is going to be Undertaker.
I don't know. I just feel like that's, I don't know, a headliner into himself where, you know what I mean? Like, Macho is obviously going last. Undertaker should go last on an event. I don't know. It's difficult.
The thing, though, is we can argue right now that Macho Man's going last, but because he's not with us, see, that's the thing that I've been considering now. For what it's worth, Macho Man should be headlining the Hall of Fame. The biggest problem is that he's not with us.
Yeah.
So, and that was the whole thing that made the Warrior induction work last year. Warrior deserved that Hall of Fame induction just as much as Hogan or any of the other superstars that have gone in before him. The nice thing was he was there to represent himself, to do his own speech, and it was poignant and it worked. And sadly, with the circumstances that followed, it was like almost like imperative. That was like, oh my God, I'm so glad we did this year. Because you got to see Warrior men fences with everybody in WWE before he found himself in Macho Man shoes.
Yeah.
So that's my argument is, with Macho Man not living, to me, it makes zero sense to have him headline. Just because if it's his brother that's doing the speech, it's not going to have that Macho Man charisma. Ideally make a Macho Man Hall of Fame induction or a speech is the Macho Man character himself. His usual mannerisms, just his Macho Man dialect, just that intensity that he brought. And that's the only thing that really sucks about them following up a Hall of Fame after Warrior. Because as far as I was concerned, Warrior and Macho Man were neck and neck for how great they were as superstars because of just the chemistry they even had together, but just how they had that chemistry was just how they were as performers on their own.
Yeah.
Like the characters they embodied. Without that embodiment of the Macho Man character, it makes no sense to me to have him go last. I think you need to end with a living legend, and in my mind, that's Undertaker.
Maybe so. I don't know. It's just I feel like it's disrespectful to have either of those guys not be the last on a Hall of Fame thing. I get your point, but I'm just like I don't know.
I agree with you completely. It's just I feel like WWE kind of screwed themselves this year.
Yeah.
Because you have two guys that deserve to go in the Hall of Fame, and there's no way of incorporating both of them onto the same card because one's dead and the other, they both deserve the same amount of respect, regardless of, whether they're living or dead, I guess.
True.
I mean, I don't know. But if you don't put in Undertaker, I mean, we tried to do this on the last show. How do you fill the rest of that Hall of Fame?
It's so weird because it's been like, of course that guy, because you've always had those like big giant question marks where you're like, well, Warrior needs to go in, Bruno Sammartino needs to go in, Brett needs to go in, and it's just like those guys aren't really there anymore. Like those legendary guys that you're like, oh, of course these guys have to go in at some point.
Right.
Now it's kind of like that last year where you're like, now you're kind of like digging at the bottom of the barrel, not to like disrespect any of the guys that aren't in there yet, but it's like, you're not on that same level as those guys.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, I can see the Dudley Boys being actually like a pre-Savage induction. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody that would be relevant.
This is the only thing that rubs me the wrong way about the Dudley Boys going in before, say, the New Age Outlaws, is even though the WWE owns ECW and WCW and very much is like the legacy of those two companies is very much their fate, if you will, is in WWE's hands.
Yeah.
No, as I appreciate the Dudleys, I still think it would be kind of weird if they went in before the Outlaws did.
I don't know. I think in history will show that the Dudley Boys were way more successful.
I mean, you could be right. I mean, that could be. I mean, we can both agree that Kevin Nash is more than likely going in.
This year, yeah. Even though I've heard him say in interviews that he won't go in unless Rick Rude is in before him. So maybe that's another induction that happens.
I mean, I could see that, but again, now you got two dead guys and one living.
Yeah.
If that's the kind of tactic that we would take as people pitching names to McMahon and saying, all right, this is who needs to go in the class of 2015.
True.
You know what I mean? Like you said, it's gonna be a depressing show if the deck is stacked with dead people.
Yeah, if it's Owen Hart, British Bulldog, fucking Rick Rude, Macho
Right.
Man. I don't know. That's depressing. Who else? I was just thinking of something. Oh, well,
I mean, Lex Luger is one you could go with, but
I think people would have a problem with that. I don't think he's on the level of Hall of Fame, personally.
right. Well, I'm also considering too that he was sort of kind of implicated
Yeah.
in the death of Miss Elizabeth, so I mean, we should probably.
But that hasn't meant that WWE hasn't done business. He's appeared in DVDs and shit like that. The Monday Night War show he's been on. I don't know. The next move is probably to move into guys like WCW guys then.
I mean, I would assume, but even certain WCW guys, you don't want them overshadowed by Macho, and you don't want Macho overshadowed by them.
Yeah.
Because you're sure not going to see Goldberg get in there.
By himself?
No, I mean...
This year or at all?
You'll see him get in there. I don't think it'll be this year. I don't even think it'll be next year. I think you still got a few more years till... There was a lot of bad blood between the company and him.
True. But it's also, you know what? Goldberg might be a guy that you could put in there because to WWE, they're kind of looked at as kind of second-class wrestling citizens, if that makes sense.
True, but I don't know. Like, technically, you could throw Sting in there this year, but I think that would be very disrespectful.
Yeah, I think that would be a not wise move to have him go in the Hall of Fame before he even appears at WrestleMania.
Right.
So,
I mean, it is tough. It is very tough because I think right now, in terms of Because again, I'd say even on the celebrity wing, you have two obvious choices this year. You have Kaufman or you have Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
To me, those are the two most obvious choices right now. Is it's got to be Kaufman or it's got to be Cyndi Lauper.
I think Kaufman makes more sense right now, seeing that they're in California for the Hall of Fame and WrestleMania. So,
but I'm going to be honest with you. Here's the thing. Now with Jerry Lawler kind of getting, this is what worries me about Jerry Lawler kind of getting phased out. Is it kind of makes me lose hope for a Kaufman induction.
Ever? I don't think ever.
I wouldn't say like ever, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I just kind of feel like King is really the only thing that like WWE has reminding them over and over. Like, why is this guy not in here yet?
Yeah. Well, maybe then this is the perfect year to do it, where it's kind of that point you've reached before you let Jerry Lawler go.
Well, right, because I couldn't see anyone else inducting Kaufman unless it was Lawler.
Yeah.
And I think WWE, as dumb as they can be, I think even they know there would be like a backlash from the fans if someone other than Lawler inducted him.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, really the only ones I could pitch right now is we know Macho Man. Kevin Nash is certainly looking like a lock. Dudley Boys are potentially New Age Outlaws. Or Cyndi Lauper or Andy Kaufman for the celebrity wing.
I'd say I'd add Rey Mysterio. I think that's another name that they could put in. Because now you have to get into tag teams, because you've done all like the heavyweight main eventers. You know what I mean? So now you have to go down the card. It's like, okay, what's next? Tag teams, cruiserweights, Intercontinental Champions, which, they pretty much have all the great ones in there.
Right.
So, Honky Tonk Man, that's another one that needs to go in.
I could care less. I've never been a Honky Tonk Man fan.
Nor have I, but there is a generation of fans that it would mean something to. I'm not a Honky Tonk guy, but I know that there is enough like respect from certain fans that it would make sense to do.
Right. No, it would totally make good sense. I'll give you that. But it just, to me, it's like, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I mean, when would you see, because this is the thing that I always ask when someone like Warrior or Savage go in there. Because for obvious reasons, Warrior and Savage were in there after like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Which I remember when he went in thinking like, is it a little too early for like the Attitude guys to be going in?
Yeah.
And then you had Edge go in, and then you know what I mean? And then you had Eddie Guerrero. I'm still kind of like, is it too, I mean, I will absolutely 110% rule out The Rock this year.
What? What?
The Rock.
What about
absolutely rule him out of going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, he's a headliner into himself. Like, certain guys, like, you're like, no, that guy needs to go in, be the head of the class, and not have to worry about jockeying for position with somebody else.
Because that's the thing is, like, as much as I love The Undertaker is a respectful enough guy that's kind of his reputation in and out of the ring is just, I could see him going second to last when he should really be last to Macho Man.
Yeah.
And not really rubbing with The Rock. It's a whole different story because not to sound like Sully or dumb down The Undertaker at all, but The Rock is still a big box office draw.
True.
So, I mean, in order for, if WWE really wants to get that box office draw in numbers for the Hall of Fame, The Rock has to be in a category of his own.
Essentially, he has to be the valedictorian of, the WrestleMania class. Because if you look every year, there's one guy that gets to walk out to his theme song. You know what I mean? Last year was the Ultimate Warrior. The year before that was Bruno. Edge did it. Shawn Michaels did it. Like, you get that one guy, the middle star. That to me, that's Macho Man this year. I mean, even though he's not with us.
I can't see it. Then that's why I can't see it, because he's not with us.
Then his brother walks out. I don't know.
I can't see it because he's not with. I don't know. That's the thing that I can't get because it's certainly not going to be Kevin Nash. I can tell you that much right now.
No, he's not the guy to do that.
I mean, that's why I think it's gonna leave us until the ballots are or the inductions are pretty much all the promos are done. I'm still gonna say it's gonna be Undertaker.
I don't know. For me, I just don't see it this year, especially now knowing that WrestleMania is in Texas next year.
Even that though, it's just I feel like they have to have it one way or another. They have to have him in a match, or they have to have him in the Hall of Fame.
He may just appear.
I don't know. To me, it's just we're on borrowed time with Undertaker.
True. I don't know. I just want to see next year at WrestleMania that giant venue, which they're gonna. I feel like they're gonna break the indoor attendance record. Sting and Undertaker one last time for both of these guys, and that's it. You've given
Well,
Undertaker 2 years to recover.
that's entirely contingent on Sting's health and Undertaker, though, because if Sting does have a match with Triple H this year, how can they have an interesting match with those two? I mean, obviously it's interesting in the fact that it's Sting and Triple H, but you know as well as I do, it has to have some kind of stipulation.
Yeah, they'll hide Sting's limitations in the ring, but that's not a bad thing though. You could have a submission match, or you could have like whatever, a no disqualification or something. We saw him tear up the house with Bubba Dudley at the TNA show, and it was like that was Bubba Dudley. Okay, granted, we're 2 years removed from that. I still think Sting could pull something out.
No, I'm not saying he can't. What I'm saying is, in order to make it, because it's kind of like now any match that Undertaker has, there has to be, because the streak's gone.
Yeah.
So there has to be something substantial about that match, and I agree. In a perfect world, it would be Sting and Undertaker. Loser retires, or if we double time.
Fuck, you could add the Hell in the Cell to Sting and Undertaker.
And it wouldn't bother me if it was like the most boring Hell in a Cell match ever, because it's Texas and it's these two guys, and it's a mutual retirement match.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much Sting has left in the tank, because he has said the whole reason why he wanted his match with Taker is because he wants to retire. I mean, I can't imagine having a match at a Mania quality match with Triple H is going to leave him with much left over for another year.
I think knowing what's at stake, I think that's more than enough to get him into the ring shape that he needs to be in.
I mean, you could be right. I'm just thinking of every Mania I've seen a Taker performance, and just how gradually and incrementally slower and more tired he's gotten in each Mania match he's done in the past 5 years.
Yeah, but they've also been some of the most interesting matches. Granted, last year was an anomaly, and I kind of chalked that up to the fact that he got a concussion very early on in that match. And from that point, it was, what do you call it, going on instinct and stuff like that. You can tell Taker was gone. It's shocking that we got the performance that we did.
And people can say what they want about Brock, but I attribute a lot of that to Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And I think that actually proved how good of a performer Brock really is in the ring, which we should know, obviously, if we grew up seeing his matches with Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think his in-ring talent could be argued by anyone that grew up in the era of wrestling that we did.
Yeah.
I mean, we did leave out the divas. I mean, obviously there's going to be at least one diva that goes in this year.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the next person after Lita and Trish, and you've got Sunny in there, I think of notable names, I think it probably would be Sable. If this is the last time you're going to get Brock, it kind of makes sense to, hey, why not placate your wife a little bit?
Right.
So
no, I agree completely. I think the most realistic is Sable. The most out there one that I was actually just reading was Mickie James.
Yeah. I don't know. That's weird. It's that's my generation. You jumped over you're jumping over the Attitude Era and you're going to the PG era.
Well, not even, because technically I would still kind of categorize Mickie James in the Ruthless Aggression era, if you will.
Yeah.
That's the precursor to the PG era. The PG era, as far as I'm concerned, is when AJ Lee and the Bellas and Natalia, and of course TV Tracks worthy right here, when those ladies all go in the Hall of Fame, that's the PG era. I think you still have at least maybe two names from the Attitude Era you can pull from, and then you have maybe two or three from, because Stacy Keibler I would consider the Ruthless Aggression Era, and she deserves to be there.
Tori Wilson. That's another one.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing people have to remember is at that point it didn't matter that they were in WCW, because they established themselves very well in WWE effortlessly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be I don't know, I suppose my thing right now is finish up the Attitude Era. Because, I mean, who was left from the Sunny Era? There really isn't.
I don't know. It's big. It's a big drop. You've got Terry, you've got Jackie. Then you got like Ivory and Tori with an I.
Well, that's can you realistically see any of those ladies getting in though? I'm not saying they deserve it. I'm just saying, could you see them realistically? Because the smart money in my mind in the next year or two would be China, and I know you and Sean laughed me off the damn show when I said that.
I don't know. It's just the fact that it's like her reputation. It's so sullied. Like, you know, if she didn't do porn, I would say okay. You know, but the fact that you add in the thing with Triple H and you know how Stephanie plays into that, I don't know. It's just, I think that's like a subject where WWE is like, yeah, she's kind of out of our hands now. We don't want anything of her.
I think that's the thing that kind of bugs me is that if you can induct Sunny, because arguably Sunny has been just as bad, if not worse, than China over the years.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there's a difference between there being like a physical media of like, there's 2 or 3 or 4 pornos of China. Show me the porno of what's her face, Sunny. Like, yeah,
Right.
she did some like naked pictures on a website that nobody really paid attention to. That's like that's like a big taboo.
Just like behind the scene politics and stuff with her relationship.
Yeah.
But I mean, the funny thing is, you do raise an interesting point because in the Attitude Era DVD, despite like the recent arrests and stuff like that, they still have like stock interviews of Sunny. Whereas I have yet to watch a DVD, even in Triple H's DVD, where China did any of her own commentary, even if it was like archive footage of her talking about it.
Sure.
And that does make me wonder. And I'm not disagreeing with you at all. If anything, I'm totally supporting your point by saying like the fact that they won't even include like archive footage of China doing interviews is kind of like, that's funny because this is like pre all that controversy, you know, and there's still, and you know, they have plenty, I'm sure, of backstage stuff with her doing interviews, you know, talking about DX and talking about, I mean, it sucks because she did have a really good run in WWE in terms of, you know, being the first like female Intercontinental Champion and all that.
Maybe there is like hope down the road. I just don't see it. I can say within the next 5 years, I don't see it.
So, I mean, do you say like it wouldn't happen in the next 5 years, or if it doesn't happen in the next 5 years, you don't?
No,
see it?
I don't see it happening in the next 5 years. After that point, I reserve the right to review that.
See, I'm the opposite. I feel like if I don't see it in the next 5 years, then it's never happening, period.
I don't know. I just think they want to get away from all the shit she did as far, you know, put it in the past and be like, yeah, well, that was a thing. Like, I don't know.
I just feel like there are other like sins, if you will, that wrestlers have committed in the past. Like, I don't know, like that leads me to ask before we wrap up, like Sabu. I think Sabu belongs in there for everything he did for CW. I don't see that one happening in 5 years because there's been so much crap backstage with Sabu.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there's, you know, WWE, it's like the public company, and I think they care more about their image. And I don't know. I don't think Sabu is a name that like, ooh, he, you know, okay, he had some drug issues, but it's like Jake had drug issues. I think you can, just from a publicity point, I think you can get over a drug issue more than you can a sex tape.
Which is kind of funny. I mean, I don't want to get into like that debate, but that seems funny to me.
Yeah.
That it's almost more acceptable in WWE corporate to have a former drug addict than to have somebody who started or produced their own porno.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even a question I'd ask people on Twitter, like the hypocrisy of that almost. But
yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, I don't feel that China doesn't belong in there. I'm just looking at it through WWE's eyes. Like the same with like everybody's like Chris Benoit. Like he had the accolades to belong in the Hall of Fame, but the fact that he went through and did everything he did, it's like, yeah, they can't. That's like publicity suicide. Like that does you no good.
Oh, I'll be right off, and I'll be the guy to say it. I mean, I'll eat my words later if it ever comes that they do the opposite. He's never going in.
Yeah. He's not. And I hate that people like debate you like, oh yeah, he's going in because they let so-and-so in. No, he's not going in. Like it's a suicidal move for them to do that.
Well, I mean, there's a difference. All right, here's the thing. Like Lex Luger is kind of a gray area for me because I feel like he could potentially go in because he did have, but was he a big enough star? Not really. But, you know, what like eventually they run out of guys. Like, I think Luger will like open a ceremony.
Yeah.
But then you have to consider, like, well, he was sort of implicated in the fact that Miss Elizabeth overdosed. Like, he was kind of like, they did kind of find him responsible in aiding that. Stuff like that, stuff that's kind of like a vulnerable area for WWE as a company. And I agree with you. That is publicity. That is just suicide. It's company suicide for them to back Chris Benoit. There's no way. It's never going to. I'm sorry, ladies. It is. If you're listening, it is never going to happen.
Yeah.
So just give up the debate because it's not happening. I mean, this is where I'll bring up another point. Like, I could argue with Jason, oh, isn't it hypocritical to induct a former drug addict and, completely shun somebody who was in porn?
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. Is it, morally okay to induct someone that's committed murder?
That's even worse.
I mean, and that's the thing, and I agree with Jason. I think that China's pornographic past will definitely keep her out.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, I think murder's a little more deplorable than starring in a porno. So, I guess the next thing we could do before we wrap up the show is ask, surprise entrance this year. Do you have any sort of like big names that you could pull out of your hat and say, like, okay, like, be it somebody that's on the current roster who's been out or just someone from the past?
Who would I pick? I was trying to think of this earlier too. Hang on, let me take a look at something. Who would work? I'm trying to think of guys that aren't in TNA right now that aren't doing anything. Steve Blackman would be kind of cool.
I think it'd be cool, but I still feel like because remember we were reading that list of like shows that were pitched for WWE Network.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I feel like unless he was part of the network in some capacity to promote a show, like that's the thing. In order for the Rumble, this is how the surprise entrant thing should work. I'm not saying this is how it does work, but this is how it should work. It should work in two ways. For someone who's been injured and off the roster for a bit, so, as much as I hate to say it, an Orton or a Bo Dallas or Sheamus, basically to get them back up to speed again. Yeah. Or for someone that has some sort of tie to the network in terms of a show, or if they're going to be used in a WrestleMania capacity. Those are the only kind of things in my mind that would make the surprise entrant make total sense.
Yeah. Let me see. I want to see Finn Balor make a surprise appearance. That's the guy that did like the Carnage paint and everything like that.
Right.
But I'm expecting Adrian Neville, the former NXT title holder, to kind of get a surprise entrance. Actually, I'm really expecting it because he lost his title rematch this past week on NXT. So it would really be like the perfect time to like, okay, he's got nothing left to do in NXT. Let's bring him in.
Right.
So,
no, I can...
And it kind of like, it's weird. Like NXT kind of becomes that point where you draw like the surprise guys from, like how it used to be like, oh, a WCW or a free agent or somebody would come in. Like, I don't know. That's like the only pot you really have to grab from unless you bring back like some legend.
Well, no, I agree. I think at this point it's mostly going to be, because that's the thing, like the Hall of Fame, we're kind of getting to the bottom of the barrel of people you can even, because I'd say arguably in the past 5 years or the past 3 years specifically, probably more 5. Like the Rumble has been, it's a big match to begin with, but I think one of the biggest draws to the Rumble is who the surprise entrant is going to be.
Yeah. Last year sucked.
Oh, last year was awful.
Yeah, it was like Kevin Nash. I'm trying to think of other ones that really mattered. Sheamus came back. That was good.
Well, no, the thing I remember specifically about last year was when we were streaming it, the stream cut out. And then we had got the stream back and we're watching it. And I had read somewhere, I think it was on WrestleZone, Kevin Nash. We didn't even see Kevin Nash in the match.
Yeah, we missed it. And I had to go to like Wikipedia to get like the rundown of like, oh, we missed. It was Kevin Nash that was in the Rumble.
So that's how shitty last year's Rumble was, where the surprise entrant, I'm not even exaggerating, the stream cut out for, I think, a minute tops. Yeah. By the time we got back, a minute. Kevin Nash
I think we had like somehow lost time throughout the Rumble, like, and we lost like 5 minutes or something like that. It may have like paused for like 30 seconds or something because like we missed like a whole 5 minutes of the show.
Right.
But I don't know. I think the biggest draw to last year was like El Torito, where I was like, hey, this is kind of funny.
Well, I mean, I'll go out and say like the Rumble match where I think this is the same one where Road Dogg came back, which was awesome at the time.
Yeah.
It's also the one where Karma came back, and then you had virtually, like, you had Booker T, you had King, and then you had Cole. To me, that was by far the worst Rumble match I've ever seen.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
that point,
I hated that when they kind of filled it up with the commentary team where it was like, yeah, this isn't really a funny joke. And, you know, those are spots that I would have rather seen somebody else get.
right. And then there was the year that, like, I don't know if that was the same year or the year before that, where the Godfather showed up and he was literally in the match for not even 5 seconds.
Yeah.
He took it up and, like, he took his jewelry off, got on the ring apron, and got knocked off.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, like, Shelton Benjamin should have, like, he got bumped for the Godfather.
Ugh.
And that bothered me because I was legitimately, like, a huge Shelton Benjamin fan when he broke away from, like, the World's Greatest Tag Team, and he was doing his, and when he was doing, like, his first couple of runs with the Intercontinental Champion before he dyed his hair blonde and was doing, like, the Mama gimmick.
Yeah.
Like, he was legitimately one of my favorites, and I was dying to see him come back, and they screwed it up.
I think Orton will somehow show up, whether it's in the title match or in the Rumble. I think he'll definitely be a part of the show.
I mean, I guess my question with Orton is, if and when he comes back, is he coming back as a member of the Authority, or is he coming back as a face?
He's coming back as a face, and it's going to be him and Seth at Mania, I think.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, my only thing with Orton is, like, I don't hate Orton. I used to actually be a huge fan when he was, you know, into his first run with the title as a babyface. It's just something about WWE style, like when they get their guys to kind of tone their style down, that just made him so boring.
Yeah. I liked his cocky, arrogant, like, you know, when he had, like, the hair and he was the legend killer. I really liked that gimmick, and now it's just, he's kind of bland. There's no, like, defining character. He just randomly strikes like a viper. Like, I don't know. I kind of missed the point of that.
I didn't mind the legend killer gimmick, but I thought they beat it to death with his rivalry with The Undertaker. I think that's when it started to be stale, and that's when it kind of got boring for me, was all the matches he kept having with Taker.
Yeah. Although I think the Mania match was a big help for him.
Right.
I remember that being a standout of that WrestleMania.
Well, like, the earlier matches, yeah, but just after a while, I got so...
Oh, yeah.
Of just the Randy Orton Undertaker. I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, I guess those would be our, like, bold predictions tomorrow. It's hard because I can't stress enough how, I don't know, just how thin the roster is.
Yeah. The weird thing is, I was looking up, I guess there's only 17 guys confirmed for the match. 3 are on the outside. I think, like, the guys that were in and got out, I think it was, like, what do you call them? The Matadors or whatever. And somebody else was in there. I think it was like Slater or something like that. Some other name where you're like, well, he's not winning. So there's really only like 20 guys kind of confirmed. So,
now, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, was it this year that it was supposed to be 40 again, or was that last year?
I think they did discuss it, but I think they realized, like, our roster's really thin, so we can't do that.
Because I could have swore that this year was supposed to be 40 again. I hope I'm not making that up. Like,
I think I did see that, but I think they nixed those plans.
Oh, no, here it is right here. They canceled the 40-man Rumble.
Yeah. Which I would like to see again. I did enjoy that. Like, that was, I was at that pay-per-view, and it you know, Rumbles, it's like by the time you get to 15, you're like, oh, we're half over. Like, I don't know. I think I like the idea of another guy. It leaves more space where, you know, you can cram pack those legends in there. You can, because that was like loaded with like people. I don't know.
Yeah, it says here, as reported several weeks ago, WWE originally plans to make next year's Royal Rumble elimination match a 40-man bout, but it was later confirmed to be a traditional 30-man match.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, just like you said, I don't think it was for any other reason other than, oh shit, we really don't have enough guys.
Yeah. At that point, you're calling in, like, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You're pulling guys from NXT. You know, you're really stretched thin, and God forbid something happens to one of your other matches on the show.
Well, I was actually just reading a report that said that originally when they were pitching that idea was because they wanted to have a lot of ECW originals in there.
Okay.
Which that would have been cool, but
that's another thing. Like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that. Like, that makes even more sense for the Dudleys to show up.
Well, yeah, because they're in Philly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I will say I agree with you though, and I probably should have guessed because I think that's why I was a little surprised by the New Age Outlaw match. Was I remember the one in Boston? It was 3 matches. The 2 title wasn't it 3? Yeah, because the Divas title I think was up for grabs too.
Yeah, there was a Divas title match. Then it was Ziggler and Edge, and then there was Miz and Randy Orton. I think was for the title. I think that was it for all the matches. It's like it was a really small card. There may have been something else in there that I'm just forgetting.
And the one thing that really stuck out to me is I remember being bored out of my mind during the Edge and Ziggler match.
Which Ziggler says is one of his favorite matches too.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta rewatch that.
I mean, I would if I had the network. But I mean, I just remember because that was the first time in years. And actually, no, it was the first time since WrestleMania 20. So I'm kind of dating it now. It was the first time since WrestleMania 20 that I actually ordered a wrestling pay-per-view.
Actually, I can give you a DVD if you want of that. Because I bought that Rumble Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know how Blu-ray DVD sales were working the last couple of years where you'd get the double. If you buy a Blu-ray, you get the DVD.
Yeah.
And so companies can say we sold X amount of DVDs and Blu-rays. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a way for them to hype up their numbers. So I have a DVD in my box that I'm never going to watch because I have a Blu-ray player. If you want the DVD, you can have it.
Sweet.
I frequently give Eddie shit where I'm like, here, I don't have any place else to put this. You take this.
I hate if it's free, it's from me. I do not scoff at these things. No, that one would be an interesting match to go back and check out again because of how badly I remember it.
Yeah.
In terms of
I may watch that later on tonight.
I don't remember that being a very interesting match at all. But and of course we actually had crap to talk about because I'm looking at the time being like, holy crap, we've gone over.
Yeah. I thought we were only going to do a half-hour guy.
We went into 7 death rules tonight. So for Mark on commentary, and we didn't have any tweets, I don't believe, otherwise Jason would.
I didn't.
But I'm sure he'll go on Twitter and get predictions from you guys. So
yeah. And me and Eddie and our friend Sean are going to come over my place, and we're going to watch the pay-per-view tomorrow, which I'm excited about. So
I suppose we'll probably be live tweeting as we go. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. So.
Because it's Sean's first. This is the first for him watching. We'll probably give that responsibility to him.
Yeah. Do this. We're watching the show.
We're watching the show, guy. You can tweet for us. So, on that note, from Mark's on commentary, I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
We will talk to you at the Rumble tomorrow.
Good night.